You know, a lot of people know about Hinoki Cypress. If you do a bonsai, you know what a Hinoki Cypress is. But have you heard of Tsukumo Cypress? Another name for it is Sawara Cypress. And the first time I laid eyes on a beautiful specimen done by Victorina Ridgway at our PSBA spring show, I was completely enamored. And so I had to find one for myself. And bought this tree off right here from Lee Cheeto down in Portland. And I absolutely love it. Maybe you will too. Okay, so here's a side-by-side of a Hinoki Cypress. This is a Chamaecyparis obtusa, and this is a Sawara Cypress. And you can kind of see the differences here, right? Now, I had a bigger Hinoki, however, I ended up selling that at one of the auctions. And that was one of the first ones actually styled, and so there'll be more. Anyways, let's take a look at the differences between these two. You can see here, let's start with the Nabari. Okay, so the Nabari here on this is, I believe, a more dwarf variety of Hinoki Cypress, so you know it's not representative of everything that you will see in the nurseries. Okay, so I'm not quite sure why my audio cut out, but here I'm just going to do a voiceover. I'm talking about the difference between the Nabari of the Tsukumo Cypress versus the Hinoki Cypress, and you can see right away that the Tsukumo has this really wide, nice flaring Nabari compared to this Hinoki Cypress on the right side. It also has this growth habit that almost bonsais itself with the very curvy type of branches when it comes out. And the Hinoki has branches that grow out relatively straight compared to the Tsukumo. And so, yeah, just check that out. It's interesting, right? And then as far as the bark goes, the Tsukumo, you can almost peel the bark and give it that shiny, polish, you know, Shinpaku bark. And you can kind of do that with the Hinoki, but not so much. And if you take a look at the needles here, the foliage, the Hinoki has more of the fan-shaped pad, and the Tsukumo Cypress needles have a little bit more of juniper-like needles, and so you can develop them in their own different ways, and they have a very different look. All right, so let's look at how we can develop a really young Tsukumo Cypress from the beginning as pre-bonsai so that it can develop into these nice larger specimens. Right, so this is a Tsukumo Cypress. Now, it's tiny, but these little guys develop into really, really cool bonsai trees. Now, I find these to be a much nicer alternative to the Hinoki Cypress because of how their growth pattern is. They like to grow very undulating and develop nice twists and turns without the wire. And they do grow nice and compact, beautiful little foliage. And I really like these. So let me take you back to one of the PSBA spring shows where Victorina Ridgway had this beautiful, I think I'm going to lose this branch, sorry, kind of in the middle of pruning this tree and then turning it into a future bonsai here, and it's going to get developed to an oak style. Anyhow, yeah, let me show you Victorina's tree from the PSBA show. Beautiful. Very elegant, very feminine looking, and the way she trained the tree, it almost looked as if, you know, it's like this model showing off her brand new shoes. And so, yeah, take a look at this tree. All right, so look at this little tiny Mame Tsukumo Cypress. That's my finger next to it. It is so cute. I kind of want to see what it looks like in a little tiny bonsai pot. And yeah, let's get a better look at this thing and go get some soil and then put it into a bonsai pot. This could work. Now that we have the little Tsukumo Cypress ready, I picked out a couple different pots here to see how they look. These almost feel like too big, and when I first got them I was thinking they were too small, but this little Mame tree is tiny. So anyways, yeah, now we need soil. So when it comes to little tiny Mame trees, you definitely don't want to use large particles in your soil, you know, like large akadama or pumice. You definitely want to sift it. So this is my bucket of shohin mix. Let's see what we got left. Oh no. Oh, I'm almost out. I am out of shohin mix. What the heck am I gonna do now?
Don't worry, Ben. I got you.
Wait a minute. Why are you in my video? Aren't you Jerome from the Bonsai Supply? You guys were in Florida and then you moved to Texas now, right?
I sure am. And this is the Bonsai Supply Shohin mix. You should give it a try.
But how are you gonna get this mix over to me? Because I need it now. I'm trying to make a video and I'm out of shohin mix.
Don't worry, man. I got a strong arm. I'll throw it to you.
Thanks, Jerome.
Anytime, man. Enjoy.
All right, first of all, thanks to Jerome and Marie for sending me some soil samples here to play around with. This is their shohin mix, and this is, I think, their universal mix. So what they got in the universal mix is pumice, lava, pine bark fines, and calcium clay. So there's no akadama in here, but I believe the calcium clay is used as a substitute for that. Pumice does do a really good job. I mean, I cannot, if you have bonsai soil without pumice, I feel like you are doing a disservice to your trees. Lava, there's certain substitutes with it. And you know, this is bonsai soil discussion, so everybody has a different opinion. And some of them are right, some of them are wrong, but you always have to rely on the folks in your area and what their experience is like, because not everybody's environment is the same. Here in Seattle, in the Pacific Northwest, it's 2 seasons. It's wet and it's dry. Wet, dry. Snow comes maybe 2 days out of the year, and there's sometimes where we drop down to single digits, but not very often. And so our zone is 8B. So we need soil that drains well and also holds water well. And so pine bark has been used as a substitute to act as that water retentive aggregate in the soil. And you know, John Muth used to do that on Bonsai Northwest. And so his mix was 1 part akadama, pumice, it was pumice, lava, and bark. And so this is quite similar. Calcium clay is one additional that Jerome and Marie use here at the Bonsai Supply. And personally, I don't use any organics in my soil. I have my reasons, only after I learned about how trichoderma loves to eat bark as it breaks it down. And so I don't use it. But to each their own. And let's take a look at this one. This is the shohin mix. This has the pine bark fines, lava, 1/4 size, calcium clay, and pumice as well, but in much, much smaller sizes. This is going to work really good for the Tsukumo Cypress that I want to put into a pot. And so, and the calcium clay, I believe that is the same thing as turfus. There's a lot of different types of aggregates that people use in their soil, and You know, people have tried turfus. Some say that's too flat, doesn't give very good root division. I think it would work fine if you had it in a mix, right? So as long as you have it in a mix, should work okay. And if you don't have akadama and you're in a pinch, that works as well. Calcium clay or even OptiZorb, Safety Zorb, diatomaceous earth people have used, kitty litter. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, when it comes to soil, there's certain characteristics that you want, right? You want something that's free draining, and then that has some moisture retention. You don't want it to be completely bone dry within seconds, right? So akadama does that. Pumice will hold a little bit. Lava rock will help drain, as well as possibly hold some of the fertilizers that you add to the soil because of all the little cracks and crevices in it, you know. And so, you know, that helps to kind of feed the tree in kind of a long term instead of just flushing right through. I tend not to use any organics, no compost, no peat. But I do have kind of an experiment I want to run with azaleas and peat. It's more of a pH thing versus using it as a 100% peat soil in bonsai pots. Because in bonsai pots, you're dealing with situations where, you know, it's a thin, flat pot that dries out a lot faster, right? And then it also retains a lot of water if trees get root bound, and that happens pretty quickly inside a bonsai pot. And so, yeah, it's a very, very delicate balance. But just remember the important thing. Follow the folks in your area, because the soil that works in California may not work down in Florida, and the Florida soil may not work in Seattle. So keep that in mind, right? But at the end of the day, just follow those characteristics. Good draining, some water retention, and some ability to kind of hold on to fertilizers that you use on your bonsai pots. And you'll be okay. But seriously, no compost. No compost in your bonsai pots. I've seen bad things happen, and some collections that have died off, like massive die-offs from using soil inside your bonsai pots, especially here in Seattle. It just gets too wet. Wintertime gets too wet. You may get away with it in kind of the hotter states, Arizona, Southern California, you know, Nevada, places like that. But here, too wet. Please don't use organics and compost in your bonsai pots here in the Pacific Northwest. You're just asking for trouble. Anyways, let's go back to potting up the Tsukumo Cypress. You know, after kind of doing a little comparison with these two pots, I think the white's just a little bit too strong, too deep, too big. It's a cute pot, don't get me wrong, but this one seems to be a little bit better, and it's still honestly way oversized for this tiny little Tsukumo Cypress. But I tend to lose track of small trees like this, and so I'm gonna have a big Mame guy for that reason. And I lead a very kind of busy life on top of doing all this stuff, and so this tree will die. Let's be honest. If it was kind of left alone like this. So let's take that guy out and figure out where's my good Korean chopstick. Okay, here we go. Now, you know, you get some debate about what's the best chopsticks to use. I would dare say that I really like the Korean ones because I'm not afraid to break it. And, you know, Ryan says, oh yeah, they're not as soft on the roots as, you know, like wooden ones. But if I had to choose, I like this one. And you can be as soft as you want to. It's all based on the pressure that you put on the tree versus having to rely on wood or metal. But I like this, to be honest with you. They last forever. And it's smooth, right? It doesn't have any kind of grip or friction on it. And you know, it had to come down to it. You want Chinese chopsticks, Japanese chopsticks, Korean chopsticks, which are these metal ones, or Vietnamese chopsticks. And the ones from Vietnam are made from bamboo, actually. So they will probably be the best ones. I went on a tour in Vietnam, and on one of the tours, they showed you one of the places that turned different type of wood products. I think it was mainly coconut into like tchotchkes and souvenirs and things like that. And I think they made one out of coconut chopsticks. I wonder how those would work out. So I've got this weird kind of bulge here at the Nabari, and I'm just going to use the scissors to shave it down to a taper. Ow! Pinched myself. My goodness. Just put my pinky right here while I closed it like a dummy. I'm ashamed to admit that actually happens to me quite often. Just forget where to put that pinky. Okay, so I'm not going to take out all of the soil, but I do need to clean out some of these roots a little bit more. So you can actually see where they had these little fabric pots that these guys probably rooted in. So you can still see some of that, that textile in the root system. And I'm going to go through here and not really try to trim everything off. I'm going to try to keep most of it because I'm doing this as a fall repot and not as a spring repot, and it's mainly for this video. Typically you want to do this in the fall. I mean, excuse me, in the spring. But there are occasions where a fall repot is okay. But the root system looks pretty good. I mean, I'm not too worried about this little tree, and it should do pretty good to recover. But I do want to work the roots so that I get them into more of a radial pattern and develop that root flare better for the future. I want to work out some of this fabric stuff that's in here. I really don't like it in there. I feel like it could become a source of clogging and drainage issues if I don't try to pick it out. Because I feel like it's already entangled in the roots and it's causing the roots to stay entangled. Okay, now looks pretty good. Okay, obviously too much roots. So we're going to cut it down just a little bit. Some more of that fabric. And the fabric, I think, is from those little peat pellets, you know, the one that you hydrate and then it expands. And it's great for rooting, but my goodness, it's kind of a pain to deal with here. Okay. I'm going to moisten this off camera. Anytime you pull the root system out, it's definitely a situation where you could cause some issues with desiccation. And so, yeah. Let's go ahead and now take a look how that's going to sit. Pretty good? Pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to take a pinch of this shohin mix along with some of the pumice that I pulled out, which is a little bit more coarse, but I want that bottom layer to be a little bit more coarse, and that's okay because it improves the ability of the drainage for the tree. So back, maybe? Forth? Yeah, I think this is the front. And we're gonna go with slightly off-centered. You know what? I have not added my tie-in wires. So I'm going to show you my trick for little pots like this that only have like 1 holes and no wire holes. So I'm going to take a thicker gauge wire and I'm going to twist it to the bottom without getting my glove stuck into there. Twist it. Okay, this is where the bottom's going to be. I'm just going to tie it in like that, right? So now we've got this as an anchor point to my tie-in wire. Slip it through that existing hole. And now I have some tie-in. Got a little salt bay right there, a little salt bay with the Shohin mix. That was retarded. Okay. How are we looking now? Slightly off-centered. Let's bring these tie-in wires in and twist them. Start with my fingers until I can't any further, and then I'll take the pliers to then twist. It's pull and twist, pull and twist. Okay. Okay. Tree has been tied down. We're gonna just add more of this Shohin mix right here. Oh yeah, this stuff is the good stuff right here. It is the perfect size for Mame trees. And I have to say that I'm not sponsored by the Bonsai Supply. They wanted to send me the soil so I could test it out and see for myself what the soil is like. But yeah, I like it actually for Shohin and Mame. Okay, so let's just continue to top this off. I can't get all of that soil underneath. I'm just going to clip the ones that are exposed. And you're probably wondering why I'm using root pruning shears on a little tiny tree, because I love this thing. Okay, this is a gift from Lee Cheeto. He gave it to me. He said, you got to try this out. I think he gave a pair to Ryan Neal as well, and Ryan was blown away. I'm blown away by these shears. So thank you, Lee. I love them. I use them for everything. They just feel good in the hand, you know? And again, I'm not sponsored by them. I just like using it. Okay, so there we go. Now, I think that this tree is tied in. I could probably, I don't want to risk it. I was gonna try to pick it up, but what we're gonna do next is, all right, so I'm gonna give it a first drench. Let's see if it's draining out a little bit. I mean, needs a little bit more. All right, so this right here is the good stuff. This is the type of moss that I want to grow and develop. And I have a video that I will be working on. Actually, probably that's all we need for such a tiny little pot. This is the good stuff. All right, so that is the Mame Tsukumo Cypress. And when this tree gets a little bit bigger, and you saw what Victorina's tree looks like, it develops into a really, really nice bonsai. Yeah, it's fun species to play with. And you don't really even need to wire this thing, to be honest with you. Not right now. These are so thin, you wire it, the chances are you'll probably end up breaking branches off of it, which is not ideal. And so, yeah. Tsukumo Cypress. Go play with your plants, folks. Happy bonsai. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, and before I forget, always cut paste your trees. It's about to be the rainy season, and you know what happens there. Fungus, fungus, fungus among us. There you go. For reals this time. Bye-bye.